Hello again. Welcome back to the Movie Buff Reactions channel. We are very close to the 2024 Oscar night, so in vein of that, I thought I'd take a look at a video based around a movie that is predicted to maybe win a bunch of Oscars. This is the CinemaSins Everything Wrong with Oppenheimer in 26 minutes or less. It's been a while since I did a CinemaSins video, and I know that people are a bit mixed on them, but I think they can be enjoyable when they don't get too preachy in some areas. But I'm interested to see this because Oppenheimer got a lot of praise, and it's already won a shit ton of awards at all the other shows, and I'm kind of in the minority of people that are a bit mixed on it. Like, I didn't fully dislike it, but there was a lot about it that I had a hard time getting into, and my feelings on it were very mixed. I did a Fresh Thoughts review when it came out, and it wasn't for me the 5-star film that a lot of other people felt it was. For me, it kind of fell into more of a clunky 2.5 star area, and I'm not saying I completely disliked it. There was a lot in it I really liked, but there was a lot of other stuff that I had a hard time getting around, like Christopher Nolan's trademark out-of-order style. Even though that's his thing, it felt like it was maybe done a bit too hard here, and my full thoughts on what was wrong with it for me, I'll get into after the video, but I'm really interested to see this because this might be the only completely not positive breakdown of the film, and I know the CinemaSins are primarily about the comedy. They're not really fully into the review part, but nonetheless, I'm very curious what they have to say, see if they have any good points to make, or if it's just going to be all the usual goofy fun. And without further ado, I'm pretty sure I lost a few of you. Let's jump in and see what is wrong with Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer.
The stars in the Universal logo twinkle, even though the camera is set outside the atmosphere of Earth where no twinkling would be caused. Take that, Christopher Nolan.
Their usual deliberate nitpicking. It's part of the thing.
Where you didn't nitpick films to death for 6 months, and then when you return, the first movie you're supposed to sit is a critically acclaimed biopic, which we have pretty much stayed away from for various reasons. So I had to hire a book lover, hard to find in the United States, to read American Prometheus for me so that I could send the differences between art and real life. And here's a simple books. Christopher Nolan makes it clear that he wants you to read his text the same way you hear his dialogue. Muddled.
Yeah, the sound was a fucking mess.
Prometheus did not go to the Prometheus school of running away from things. Oppenheimer begins with text that makes it look like it's going to be broken up into chapter breaks, showing us number 1, fission, and then number 2, fusion. But it turns out it's just a numbering and titling system that's used here and here only. The change from color for Oppenheimer to black and white for Strauss lets you know everything you need to know. Anyway, personally, I'm just glad I won't be confused about what the mole is in this picture.
President Eisenhower's asked you to be
Dunkirk.
the Senate really has no choice but to confirm it.
It's amazing that Han Solo here acts as if the Senate just rubber stamps cabinet members because the president wants it, and then an hour later explains that there have been cabinet members who weren't voted in.
You're happier there than in America.
Happier.
Yes.
As Cillian Murphy thinks back to his days at Cambridge, which he attended in 1925 and 1926, and the movie cuts back to the grade board hearing, which took place in 1954, I just realized we finally got the 28 years later movie we've all been waiting for! Zombies! Amazingly, Nolan did all these special effects in camera, including this lifelike replica.
He is good at that, and I respect him strong for that.
Regaled the crew with stories about filming Red Hot.
Useless in the lab.
What the was he trying to do here besides deliberately knock over that flask? That's a giant-ass Florence flask that is directly next to your workspace. I heard that Cillian smashes a Florence in this movie. I just it was so obviously staged.
I need to go to the lecture, sir. Why? It smells boring.
Boring lectures. And the director said, let's show that one time Oppie poisoned a professor's apple.
Yeah, this is weird.
Worship stuff we do later. Attempted murder just isn't quite enough to ensure the audience knows he's actually an acetate. Also, the poison...
I'd go with fucking Loon.
It didn't happen like this, or with actual cyanide, and it definitely didn't reach the point where Gilderoy Lockhart almost ate it. But sure, put it in the movie anyway.
Dramatic.
In a cheap and paradox that not everyone can accept.
Kenneth Branagh can't sign the contract fast enough when he knows he gets to do an accent in a movie cliche. Luckily for the movie's poisoned apple story, Niels Bohr was uninhibited in stealing things off professors' tables.
Algebra's like sheet music. The important thing isn't can you read music, it's can you hear it. Can you hear the music, Robert?
Turning objective science into subjective art. I honestly don't know what that means, but it felt like a sin to me, so I said it. And now the thing will confirm it objectively as a sin of the movie. Drone shot, sparkles, looking up. Drone shot,
Yeah,
sparkles,
all over the place.
Drone shot, staring, inflamed cornea, enlightenment. Can't play it, but the fucking score in this movie is goddamn terrific. Here's a sit off for Ludwig Göransson, who's fucking killing it.
Mr. Strauss. It's pronounced Strauss.
I've gone back and listened to Oppie say straws 5 times now, and I swear he says straws. Play it again.
Mr. Strauss.
Now play RDJ.
Strauss.
Now play them back to back.
Strauss. Strauss.
They are saying the same fucking thing. I can't believe this movie got nominated for Oscars.
Would be your office.
Even though it's
You and me too.
We've located the manual pencil sharpener directly next to the typewriter, so that the audience watching will have maximum "we don't use that anymore" vibes.
I chose to sell shoes. Louis Strauss was once a lowly shoe salesman. No, just a shoe salesman.
Yes, Louis Strauss was a vindictive man obsessed with petty slates, which eventually led him to masterminding an extremely unfair kangaroo court hearing for Oppenheimer a few years later. But if you don't come out of this movie thinking Oppenheimer is kind of an unaware dick, then the sin's on you.
I guess I'm sin-free.
Just give it to the movie, I guess. Leaving the door standing open on what appears to be a windy, chilly day. Did the IAS not ever get to the chapter on energy loss through convection-based transference?
Albert.
So, the book lover I hired tells me that American Prometheus mentioned several things that built up tension between Strauss and Oppenheimer. And the turning point was when Strauss told him he wanted to buy a house at the Institute. Oppenheimer then got the Institute to buy the house and moved someone else in so Strauss couldn't do that. But sure, I could see how you could interpret this as he thought Oppenheimer...
Not quite as exciting.
Einstein to diss him by a pond one day.
This is one of the most prestigious appointments in the country.
Yes. It was a great commute.
I can't help but be let down by this interaction between Scarecrow and Iron Man. When these decided to join forces after Apple bought them, I expected a lot more.
If you'll just allow me to continue with my
Mr.
statement.
Rob.
I've written it specifically to get us all the exposition we need so that even with all the different moments we're jumping around to, the audience can attempt to follow Nolan's structural hyperactivity.
After Göttingen, I moved on to Leiden and Holland, where I first met Isidore Rabbit.
I actually love this movie, but the large number of names, colleges, and cities thrown into the Christopher Nolan sound mix are extremely hard to keep up with. I mean, is this Göttingen even a real place? Is it somewhere in Gondor near the sun?
Also impossible to hear it.
Skinny, we're going to lose you between the seat cushions.
Thin shaming.
This is German.
He is very malnourished looking.
Heisenberg.
It's almost like Oppenheimer's life was like an RPG. Go to this college, learn under this dude, then meet this guy in another city. He'll tell you about some other guy you need to see. This nets you 1,367 experience points. You can now level up your intelligence. It's a fine way to build your characters so you can create a weapon of mass destruction that will cause intense amounts of death, pain, and suffering. Heisenberg isn't yelling at students to say his name in this scene. Look, I'm on board for a raucous teaching montage as much as the next guy, but what kind of time is passing here? Is it a semester later? A year? 5 years? Why can't Nolan be concerned with the passage of time for once?
What happened to the stars?
And he wouldn't be Christopher Nolan.
I don't know, but this seems like a good time to talk about black holes at this party in a movie that's 3 hours.
Robert here says he's not a communist.
Well, then he doesn't know enough about it.
Using the "you'd like it if you just knew more about it" defense. I'm sorry, coffee is a bitter bean. The world was acquired a taste for, even though it inherently tastes bad. I don't care how you prepare it or what you put in it, it's still terrible and I don't want it. So you can stop trying to convince me your hot bean water is worth imbibing.
Hate this.
Because nothing turns me on more than picking a random book from a random shelf in a random language I don't understand. But just
This is where he got his famous quote from Florence Pugh's tits.
And now I am become death. Destroyer of worlds.
Mixing sex with Sanskrit.
You're happy. I'm happy.
If I'm happy, you're
Wrong.
Tomorrow we'll drive it.
What's it called?
Los Alamos.
Movie honestly hits that name so hard that I swear it wants to change its title to Los Alamos just so we can roll some credits.
Organized labor on campuses. That's coming through! Coming!
Are these people chanting because someone is going to try to climb out of the Lazarus pit? What's amazing to me is that we have actual images of the San Francisco Chronicle cover from September 1st, 1939, and this movie decides to take creative license with it for some reason. Sure, it's not much creative license, but it's licensed nonetheless.
During the Battle of Britain, I found myself increasingly out of sympathy with the policy of neutrality that communists advocated.
But after Hitler invaded Russia and we became allies, these communist sympathies, do they return?
This movie does a decent job showing Oppenheimer fighting for human rights causes through his communist attachments, but doesn't do much to explain why they became problematic. A lot of it had to do with the Hitler-Stalin Pact of 1939, where card-carrying members of the Communist Party were forced to be neutral about the war, but this key moment is barely even mentioned. So says the guy I paid to read American Prometheus. This shot asks me to believe
History
every
lesson.
single person in this room just so happens to have their glasses exactly half full. Well, neither enough optimism to believe that
Symbolism?
maybe takes half an hour to realize Emily Blunt's been sitting there the entire time. At least now.
Very wasted talent.
I'll just treat her as an emotional transference accessory for the next 150 minutes.
Yes, you do. Because you know it won't make a bit of difference.
Why didn't you marry him?
Seamlessly carrying on a conversation that started halfway across the country weeks ago and not on horseback.
The FBI, why not go to the AEC direct?
Sure, by this Senate aide is here questioning an authority figure on all this info we need, as Senate aides are known to do.
But, Dr. Oppenheimer, we've already heard from Admiral Strauss that these isotopes could be useful to our enemies in the production of atomic weapons.
Congressman, you could use a shovel in making atomic weapons.
Why does the crowd laugh before Oppenheimer provides the full punchline? At the point he says shovel, they're already laughing, like they know what the f*** Oppenheimer is about to say.
Kitty?
Beats me.
Kitty?
That's a baby, Robert. Delivering babies to people who didn't birth them. This is an
Yeah,
excellent scene here.
what an asshole.
This moment occurred in the summer of 1941 in Pasadena. I'm wondering what kind of asshole you have to be to warm yourself by the fire during a Southern California summer.
Because you should be
A
doing
pretentious one.
You should. Lawrence won't get this done. Or Tolman or Robbie, you will.
A fairly decent flaw of this movie is that it doesn't really explain why Oppenheimer was the man to lead the Manhattan Project. Oh, sure, the movie shows us how quickly he understands things and how he dreams in physics, but we don't ever get a sense of why he was the person to lead this. He understood physics at a very high level, but he didn't do much in the way of original thinking. But what he could do was hear multiple perspectives and combine them in a way that made sense when others couldn't. And not one asshole in this movie makes that clear.
My favorite response.
Best part of the movie.
Oppenheimer couldn't run a hamburger stand.
I would award Matt Damon the Matt Damon Award for making an impact on a movie and a cameo appearance for this movie, but by the end, he'll have stiff competition from a dozen or so high-quality candidates. So here's a sin for underusing so much talent in general instead.
I thought he was used well. He did a good job.
A secret laboratory.
In the middle of nowhere, secure, self-sufficient.
Equipment, housing, works.
Seamlessly carrying on a conversation that started halfway across the country weeks ago and not on a train. Valerian present.
Yeah,
Senator
that
more
cliche.
in this movie than in Murder on the Orient Express.
I don't wish the culmination of 3 centuries of physics to be a weapon of mass destruction.
This complicated conversation centers the movie so cleanly, and David Krumholtz is so good in this role that the movie explodes outward from this point with a chain reaction, force that's hard to deny. I could sin that it took us this long to get here, but this moment is way too good to not throw the ding reaction in reverse for a second.
Personally, I forgot about this guy.
Told Rhodes to go shit in his hat.
Well, now that is quite the rebuttal.
Elton. The chemistry shot. You hear you guy?
The way this movie quick cuts to characters as they are mentioned is Nolan's implicit apology that he's given us too many names and faces to remember. I, for one, do not forget him.
No presidential cabinet nominee
Good on you.
failed to be confirmed since 1925.
Acting like this statistic means something.
I thought Oppenheimer is a U.S. one.
Failed Barbie taglines.
All he needs is a saloon.
Barbenheimer.
Kitty is making a joke about how the town looked.
That whole thing was nuts.
Considering the movie's focus on her drinking, I'm going to chalk this up as an actual request.
Using U-235, the bomb will need a... Sorry. Gadget will need...
Clumsy.
It's a gadget, not a bomb, for reasons the movie never tells us. At least justify your reasons if you're going to wield this weapon of semantic deconstruction.
Catch me up. What do we know?
Well, for one thing, we know that the only reason someone hasn't already moved this clearly obtrusive centerpiece is because the movie wants its big chronicle revealed here in a bit.
There's no proof there was a spy at Los Alamos.
Robert.
We all love small-minded thinkers, don't we? Soviets have a bomb, ergo, there was a spy at Los Alamos. American exceptionalism says, well, the Soviets didn't figure out an atomic bomb.
Small thinkers make the country go round.
Life in the movie, but I gotta put this in somewhere.
Put it under the football stadium?
It feels not in use anymore.
Just as well.
We're thinking about selling it to the Gotham Rogues. Can't imagine any issues down the road. This underground bunker is so much like the one in The Dark Knight that I'm expecting Bruce Wayne to show up with Alfred testing.
Yeah, it does kind of look like the one from there.
It took me out of the movie for the rest of the runtime. Although seeing Surprise Mr. Robot make an almost cameo doesn't help much.
And Freddie Mercury.
Levers to pull like mine.
Bragging about how pullable your lever is.
You're neither humble nor just a soldier. You studied engineering at MIT.
Guilty as charged.
This movie has a lot of explaining to do when it comes to a time-traveling Will Hunting transported to 1943 to fight the Nazis. You hear that, movie? That's a number. How about them poisoned apples?
Aren't AEC guidelines? Would you clear Dr. Oppenheimer today?
While you contemplate this question, let's cut to a flashback of Oppenheimer smoking a pipe. There's no need to answer this right away. In fact, it'll be over an hour before this question gets
And you got sick of cigarettes in the moment.
What a trick. Thing I say every time I watch anything Star Trek somehow makes it into this movie. This is like the physics version of the scene in every Western where they walk down a brothel hallway and all sorts of debauchery is happening in every room where they look. And honestly, the physics version just isn't my preferred version.
We are aboard, Doctor.
Don't be an asshole, Nichols.
Long awaited showdown between
Everyone's an asshole here.
missiles before it even begins. When DC Marv Apple went under the Amazon roof, things really took a downturn.
F-A-C-T.
But that what means to me.
Doctor, do you think social contacts between a person engaged on secret war work and communists was dangerous?
Holy sh! The movie cut from Roger Robb asking General Groves a question to a 3-minute flashback that provides much needed context, and now cut back to a different part of the hearing where Robb is asking Oppenheimer a question, where it then goes on another flashback. Now look, I know this is a method that keeps the story moving and makes it a much better film, but can I not complain about this perceived whiplash? Can't I complain about something for once? Sitting on hotel chairs.
It's how you made a living.
Coitus.
Spent the night together, didn't you?
I get what we're going for here. Oppenheimer has to share intimate details about an affair he had directly
This
with his wife.
was such a fucking dumb scene.
There is a testimony about all the hot sex.
I get what they're going for, but it's really fucking
The
stupid.
rest of this motion picture. Also, while I'm sure you'd love for me to dissect the visuals here, complete with arrows, there's clearly no penetration. Really disappointed me when I watched this in IMAX. Also,
And Tommy was so direct.
Concurrent Democratic Conference Room Communist Inquiry.
You asked me to come, and I'm glad I did.
Writing this line of dialogue while providing these visuals and expecting me not to giggle. This fumbled person.
Very hard to take them seriously when they're naked.
She has an alcohol problem. We really haven't heard from her in a while, and it's apparently her defining character trait.
That and being pissed 24/7.
Elton.
You might want to give me another reminder of this dude, like the last time you brought him up, because my brain has been taking in so much information at this point that the viewer me is having a hard time remembering who you're talking about. Sinner me knows who we're talking about because I've now watched the movie 4 times, but Sinner me fights for the viewer me that does not
Once was enough for
know
me.
who we're talking about. Casey Affleck now shows up for 5 minutes, and Nolan is hoarding Oscar winners in this movie.
Hello.
He's built an Invincible Academy Award branded Magic the Gathering deck.
I told them a cock and bull story.
Oh, so you told him the story of Crystal Shandy based on the 1759 novel written by Lawrence Stern? What did they think of Steve Coogan?
So Eltonton made his approach through a member of the faculty here at Berkeley.
I'd like to offer a reminder that this scene an hour ago is the only time we've seen this Eltonton guy in the whole movie.
Consider us going on certain steps, which may come to your attention and be disturbing to you.
Geez, who accidentally gave Casey Affleck the prescription for the pause in places that make you sound like a serial killer pills? Because I think he may have exceeded the recommended dosage.
What makes you think I know where he is anyway?
Oppenheimer had an affair with Ruth Coleman too, but I guess it wasn't sexy and nudity enough to nudity, sex, and nudity.
Early Christmas.
That would have been interesting.
I guess everybody at the party was standing at this angle so they couldn't see Niels Bohr until Grove stepped out of the way.
Isn't big enough.
I'm asking this question to anyone. Nothing in particular, just in general, is all I'm saying.
The power you're about to reveal will forever outlive the Nazis.
I'm living in 2024 and I'm beginning to doubt this statement. Oppenheimer plays the pronoun game 3 times in this scene so that Kitty has to ask who the hell she and her is.
Don't you hate that?
Commit to sin, and then us all feel sorry for you. Consequences.
I would like
Yeah,
Christopher
he
Nolan
comes off like a real bitch
sitting
here.
paper grip located behind a bookshelf to get inspiration for this quote. We have etched everywhere on the columns surrounding the pentagram and the various burial mounds. Bookshelf can only be accessed by pulling the exact books in the same order that Matthew McConaughey pushed while in the Tesseract and Interstellar. We've been hacked. This is becoming a meme that plays off him regretting inventing the atomic bomb when really he's thinking about his responsibility for Gene's death here.
So the super was under development on your watch at Los Alamos.
Yes.
And yet, after the war, you tried to deny it was viable.
This is a 3-hour movie, so it's understandable why we don't get full explanations for things. But we don't really get much on why the hearing is so concerned with Oppenheimer's views on the hydrogen bomb. People like Louis Strauss wanted to paint the picture that Oppenheimer, a guy with communist ties, was purposely slowing down the development of the H-bomb to help the Soviets catch up. Even when you watch this movie several times, the purpose of this line of questioning isn't super clear. They're finally taking this fucking plant off the table after several scenes of people moving it around or talking around it. What's it here for? Because if you tell me symbolism or some shit, I will fucking rage. Also, wait, was the map already on this centerpiece? Why would they put the map down and then put the centerpiece back on top of it at all? This centerpiece defies all logic and it is the worst part of the movie.
Gentlemen, let's not get sidetracked.
It's a Nolan movie. Getting sidetracked until you are not sure which tracks are in the middle and which tracks are on the side is kind of the whole point. Confusion is hard. By the way, was Jack Quaid in this movie for a second? Or did I just imagine that? I also swear I saw
Who was it in this movie?
Oppenheimer? William Boykin.
Oh, is this the guy who ends up being Christian Bale's twin brother at the end of the movie? Makeup is spectacular. I'll never forget after doing the first Dark Knight video, commenters who tried to tell us this guy and Cillian Murphy were the same person, and there were actual lights for that comment. And now here they are in the same scene. It's so awesome when you're proved right 100% of the time, even if it's a decade later. Anyway, here's a sin for YouTube comments. Also, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment.
Give at least 10 for that.
Delivered the first year. This year we've had 10 a month.
Super pumped we got the reproductive rundown part of Los Alamos into this 3-hour movie.
What do we call the test? God of my heart. 3-person God.
What?
Trinity.
Oh.
We intend to demonstrate it in the most unambiguous terms. Twice.
Thinking you need multiple orgasms to prove your military expertise.
I've taken Kyoto off the list due to its culture.
James Remop, baby.
People.
Yeah, that's all you have to say. Moving on. Oh, you're not done?
Also, my wife and I honeymooned there. It's a magnificent city.
This additional reason Stimson adds to the discussion. It probably didn't happen, but sure, let's include it anyway.
According to my intelligence, which I cannot share with you, the Japanese people will not surrender, under any circumstances, short of a successful and total invasion of the home islands.
This is not a sin for the movie, but for real life. There are numerous ways to end the war without dropping the A-bomb on Japan. Many of them discussed in this scene. This lie ends up killing hundreds of thousands of people. There were relentless bombings before the A-bomb was dropped that devastated cities. For ultimately entering a one-man measuring contest, I award 200,000 sins.
Holy shit.
These guys have only added like 3 pieces since we last saw them. And we've had a whole trip to Washington go down since then. What's the holdup? My family put together a 1,000-piece puzzle over Christmas, and we were drunk on eggnog and Reese's Christmas trees at the time. Having someone knife open your atom bomb gift wrapping, who has to be warned to be careful while using a knife around an atomic bomb. In case you forgot, this is Abby's wife, Catherine.
Yep, she's still there.
There's a drink in her hand. You're welcome. Get a room.
It'll be before dawn.
Backing in the tongue.
This desert. Storm cools overnight. Just before dawn, storm breaks.
Oh, look, it's Chekhov's Desert Meteorological Knowledge. Never saw that one coming. Fair play, Christopher. Fair play indeed.
In exactly 1 hour, 58 minutes, we'll know.
Nice. You could pass the time by watching 2/3 of a Nolan or half of a Scorsese.
Maybe get a good jerk in there.
The tension in this Trinity scene is just magnificent. Shots.
This is an amazing sequence.
I have to say, this scene
Worth the price. Despite my mixed feelings.
Penance for what just happened here. This becomes death, destroyer of worlds for all the sometime.
Get a message to Kitty. We can't say anything. Tell her to take in the sheets.
Huh? What'd you say? Can't hear you over all these people yelling. Also, am I supposed to feel some sort of way out this line? I feel like the movie wants me to be emotionally invested in this coded exchange, but forgot that it probably should have shown me something positive about their relationship by this point. It wanted mine.
Yeah, there really isn't anything.
An ace, it's for them to play the hand.
Rounders 2, or how I learned to stop playing and deal the hand. Also, just a single ace.
Oh, a good Strange Love reference.
See a good hand. I mean, you sent 2 bombs. Couldn't you at least broaden your metaphor to include pocket aces? As Oppenheimer walks out pondering the impact of his creation and the celebration around it, I too am moved to contemplation about the way humanity doesn't think about the things it creates until the consequences are already in effect. Mostly I'm talking about whatever idiot put these spectator bleachers right under this hoop and built a fireplace under the other one. Just a complete travesty on a historical level. Makes me question whether we don't deserve exactly what we get.
I just wish we had it in time to use against the Germans.
The absolute artistry of this scene and its ability to convey the inner turmoil of Oppenheimer would have made an incredible final scene to an amazing 2-hour movie. But apparently, for the next hour, I'm supposed to now care about Robert Downey Jr. getting some sort of comeuppance because he doesn't get a job he really, really wanted. It's like my professor told me in college, public speaking is easy. You just have to imagine the audience nuke him. Quickly suddenly turns into a 1990s music video. All this open space everywhere to vomit, and this guy chooses some poor bastard's bike to throw up on. And maybe it's his bike. That doesn't make it any less sinful. Holy shit, how does Gary Oldman play Harry Truman and Winston Churchill in the same movie?
Think anyone in Hiroshima or Nagasaki gives a shit who built the bomb? They care who dropped it.
And what giant creatures it might attract. Don't forget that.
We can win this thing.
Yeah, Lewis, listen to the guy here who hasn't said a single word the entire movie. I bet his opinion is very important.
Like how we know what Time Magazine is going to write.
Henry Lewis is a friend.
Thinking a Senate aide wouldn't have already been disillusioned by a million things worse than planting positive info in a magazine article.
Warden, when we all know that it's straws.
Remember Kitty? She's Robert's wife. You can tell it's her by the you know what?
And she's always on edge.
My client sit here and potentially perjure himself, and all this time, you had a recording?
We get it. It was a kangaroo non-court led by a petty vendetta. Gotten that for at least the last 20 minutes. Can we just get to the part where the guy who decided is the good guy wins?
Frost told him that you and Ruth Tolman have been having an affair for years. He convinced Lawrence that Richard died of a broken heart.
That's absurd.
What's the heart?
That matters what?
She never found out.
Oh, that's our Oppie. If you think the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You is going to take on the guy from 820, 30 Days of Night, and 40 Days and 40 Nights, then you clearly don't know who has the advantage when it comes to multiples of 10.
I have an A-bomb and a whole series of it. We have a whole series of super bombs. What more do you want? Mermaids.
Mr. President, we must not allow a
Be interesting.
Is anyone ever going to tell the truth about what's happening here?
Christopher Nolan might as well have done a quick insert of himself with a blinking neon sign above him that says, "It's me, I'm the truth teller, watch me tell my truth."
Wouldn't put it past him.
The Oppenheimer matter was initiated and carried through largely through the animus of Louis Strauss.
And you must believe me because I'm Academy Award winner Rami Malek. These are my only words in the movie.
In a great number of cases, I have seen Dr. Oppenheimer act in a way which was, to me, exceedingly hard to understand.
You may have figured out that Edward Teller didn't like Oppenheimer because of his opposition to the H-bomb, which is what Teller later became famous for. But do you really understand that from this movie? We saw him trying to leave Los Alamos after his colleague called him out for focusing on the H-bomb when they were working on the A-bomb. We saw him get upset at Oppenheimer when Teller brought up creating the H-bomb after the successful A-bomb drop. We never really see the ambition that was driving him to create that bomb.
And I believed this since I left the party 16 years ago. 17 years ago. My mistake.
But you
Sorry, 18.
Constantly interrupting someone just because you're
This was their only good scene in the movie.
It's a kangaroo court with a predetermined outcome.
He has that point.
Ah, sudden convenient late night Albert Einstein. Also, Albert Einstein did not hear that. I barely heard it myself.
By 1942, you're
The gist of this movie.
the hydrogen bomb, weren't you?
Movie decides in the last few minutes to get into some actual complexities about its central character's positions, but doesn't give itself enough time to thoughtfully consider the nuance it's just now bringing to the table.
He wanted the glorious, insincere guilt to be self-important, to wear like a fucking crown and say, no, we cannot go down this road, even as he knew we have to.
Robert Downey Jr. is incredible in this movie. Please don't
Agreed.
let him put on a suit made of iron ever again.
Kennedy. John F. Kennedy.
I singled him out from the three holdouts for no specific reason whatsoever, and I'm glad you asked specifically to hear his name. Putting in a scene just so the old age makeup team can show off.
We thought we might start a chain reaction that would destroy the entire world.
I remember it well. What happened?
I believe we did.
Taking full credit for the depravity of man.
What's the sentence? Big number. Oh, God.
You're from New Mexico? No, New York, but my brother and I have a ranch outside Santa Fe.
You know, you should see Santa Fe. Everything's different there.
Best to get home. Come, boys. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Explain quantum mechanics to me. Seems baffling.
Now, let's say a drop of water falls in your hand. Which way is the drop going to roll off?
I'm your nuclear deterrent. It's working. We're safe. America is secure. You want that? You can't have it.
Or should we pivot
So what?
and embrace it?
Would that? It were so simple.
We imagine a future, and our imaginings horrify us. Just because we're building it doesn't mean we get to decide how it's used. Except it's the most remote possibility. How remote? Chances are near zero.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Love me, Bill and Ted.
Ready to negotiate.
Oh! True romance!
McCarthy on the rise. He knew he was vulnerable. His brother was blacklisted by every university in the country.
You supported the dropping of the atom bomb on your head.
You want about another target, a military target? Then name the system.
Kennedy. John F. Kennedy.
Who the hell is John F. Kennedy?
That was a lot of fun. CinemaSins, they had a bumpy patch for a few years, but I think that's a really good one, and they covered a lot. They didn't just do jokes, they covered the changing, obviously, that comes with doing a dramatic biopic. The history stuff they delved into, I like that. How, yeah, there's so many fucking actors and characters in this movie that it's impossible to keep track of every one of them. The constant jumping back and forth, again, I know that's Christopher Nolan's style, but it was a little hard here, and for me, this is a kind of movie where I think this type of story, you didn't really need the out of order plot telling. And also, I said I would get into what I personally took big issue with, and I guess the main thing would be the fact that this is a 3-hour movie, and while I like a good fast-paced movie, this film felt like it was going by way too fast. Like, not just with all the back and forth time jumping, but also the fact that we got maybe, yeah, as I said, 2-3 minutes per scene most of the time, and it just kept going by so fast that I really didn't, I found that I couldn't really absorb much of the plot or characters, and that's another big thing. I really couldn't, like, I've seen a lot of movies where the story's a little flimsy, but I can forgive them if the characters are good. I can get really invested in characters, but I really could not get invested in most of the cast here. Cillian Murphy, he's done some stuff, been some good stuff, but, and I just couldn't get into him as Oppenheimer, and good for him, he's winning all the awards, but with him as Oppenheimer, he just felt most of the time kind of wooden and a bit awkward, which I know that's what they're kind of going for with Oppenheimer, but it was just awkward in the sense that I couldn't really give a shit about him. I wasn't really that invested. Like, the first hour of this film was primarily about his life before he built the bomb, and all I could think in the theater was, I don't give a shit about any of this. And then when the second hour started, where they're making the bomb, I really liked that. That's when the film really came alive, and especially when Matt Damon came in. Matt Damon was the most incredible surprise of this film, and I just loved every second of him. And the atomic bomb explosion scene, that scene alone, even if you're not hot on Oppenheimer, that scene is worth the goddamn price of admission. It's just incredible. And there's one last thing I can say about Cillian Murphy. They made the joke about the scene where someone jokes about him being skinny. I know Oppenheimer was thin, but Cillian Murphy, I think, went a little too far to the point that he doesn't really look human. He looks like a bug-eyed alien throughout most of the film, and all the scenes where he's just standing there like this, I just couldn't take it seriously. And as for Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh, I've liked Florence Pugh in a thing here and there. I haven't seen all of her stuff, but to me, I felt she was just kind of wasted in this movie. The only thing that I remember, that even after going through this video, the only thing I remember about her is that she was naked. That's it. Nothing else. I didn't grow a connection or get invested in her relationship with Oppenheimer, and I don't even remember her name. As for Emily Blunt, I love Emily Blunt, but for the most part, I also think she was pretty much wasted in this film. Her one character trait throughout the whole movie is that she's, next to being a drunk, is that she's always pissed and on edge. It's like a one-note character. It just, I feel like she wasn't used to her full potential, and then we get that scene where she's getting interrogated, and finally, she's allowed to goddamn act. And that one scene shows that, yeah, she could have done so much more. Robert Downey Jr., the Lewis Strauss scenes, they are really good, but they feel like they are from a completely different movie. Like they said here, we could have had a good 2-hour film, and I kind of, even though I think the first hour was a bit just uninteresting, that could have been the case, but then we get this third act that just feels like an entirely different movie. Like, this almost feels like it should have been a mini-series with segmented episodes. Because the Strauss stuff, I feel like, even though it's about Oppenheimer's life, I feel like it doesn't really tie in to all the shit going on with the bomb. But Robert Downey Jr., he is great, and it's cool to see him get some accolades after all the years working with Marvel. And if there's one last thing I can comment on before I quit my rambling tangent, which I'm not sure how many have stuck around for it, but the movie's score got a lot of praise. The music by Ludwig Göransson, and I honestly can't say if I enjoyed the score, just because for me, the music score was next to the sound being near impossible to hear, the music was something that really detracted from the film, just for the fact that it never shut the fuck up. The music was just non-stop, repeatedly, and it was also blaring in scenes that really didn't call for it. Like, the moment that kind of drove me nuts in the theater was when we see Oppenheimer walking down a dirt road, and we hear this intense score, and all I could think was, he's walking down a dirt road. This is not the chase scene from The Dark Knight. Which, last thing I'll say, swear, this is not an action movie. It's a drama. But the whole film feels like it was edited like it was supposed to be an action film. So it's just needlessly intense and beating you over the head. And some movies can do this type of style, like with all the flashing images, cutaways. Some movies can pull this off, like Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers, also with Robert Downey Jr., but I don't know, I just feel like this story, for me, could have been better if it was more straightforward, but again, I don't think this is a terrible film. It's just a movie that I'm very mixed on. It has some really good goddamn moments, but has a lot of stuff that just was really hard to get into. And Christopher Nolan, I loved his movies like Memento and Dunkirk and a few others, but he's never been like a all-the-time favorite of mine, but this was definitely an epic. It was worth going to see in the theater just for that atomic blast. And I don't know how it's going to play out at the Oscars. Personally, my favorite 3-hour plus movie of 2023 was Killers of the Flower Moon, which may win Best Actress, but I doubt it will win a ton of others. So I think that's a good note to pull out on. Hope the Oscars aren't a complete slog, as a lot of people feel they are, and hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you again, hopefully soon.